Early this morning, Friday, April the 28th, 1916, General Sir John Maxwell, the Commander-in-Chief of the British forces in Ireland, disembarked at the North Wall. Later, our reporter Pat Nolan spoke to Sir John at Dublin Castle.
Sir John, I know you've just arrived here, but do you have any new measures in mind to deal with the situation?
I've kept myself informed of every development in this unfortunate affair. The lateness of my arrival puts me at no disadvantage.
Of course not, Sir John. We don't mean to.
A few minutes ago, I issued a proclamation. These are its salient points. The most vigorous measures will be taken by me to stop the loss of life and damage to property which certain misguided persons are causing by their armed resistance to the law. If necessary, I shall not hesitate to destroy all buildings within any area occupied by the rebels, and I warn all persons within the area specified below and now surrounded by His Majesty's troops forthwith to leave such areas under the following conditions. Well, I don't think I need go on. The remainder of the proclamation deals with the procedure under which various persons may pass through our examining posts.
Sir, already the centre of Dublin is in flames. How much more of the city are you prepared to destroy?
As much as is necessary. I intend to crush the rebellion with all possible thoroughness and dispatch. One must be firm with these people.
Do you think the insurgents can hold out for much longer?
No more than a matter of hours. Although, of course, with fanatics, one never knows. But our cordon around the center of the city is impenetrable. No one can get in or out. And the fires which are consuming buildings in Sackville Street must sooner or later drive the rebels into the open. When that happens, I can assure them of a hot reception.
Throughout last night, the fires raged from O'Connell Bridge to the Nelson Pillar. Half of Sackville Street is already in ruins. Damage so far is estimated as close on £2 million, a figure which increases every minute as the fires continue to spread unchecked. In a few moments, we hope to go over to Tara Street to have a word with Captain Purcell, Chief of the Dublin Fire Brigade. But in the meantime, this was the scene inside the General Post Office this morning.
Here in the GPO, the plight of the rebels grows more desperate by the hour. They're under siege not only by the military, but by the flames which at any moment may close in and engulf them. Commandant Connolly has ordered that his bed be moved out of the hospital area so that he can be in direct command of his garrison. Commandant Connolly, who was twice wounded in the course of yesterday's fighting, passed a restless night and is even now in severe pain.
Pain? Who said so? A soft bed, a detective story, cigarettes, and an insurrection. Oh, man, this is revolution deluxe.
Shortly afterwards, Commandant Connolly dictated a dispatch to his secretary, Miss Carney. In it, Commandant Connolly referred to the successful stand made by the insurgents at Boland's Bakery, the South Dublin Union, Jacob's Factory, the Linen Hall Barracks, and the College of Surgeons, and spoke optimistically of the rising in the country.
As you know, I was wounded twice yesterday and am unable to move around. But I have got my bed into the firing line, and with your officers will be as useful to you as ever. Courage, boys. We're winning. And in our hour of victory, let us not forget the splendid women who everywhere stood by us and cheered us on. Never had man or woman a grander cause. Never was cause more grandly served.
But neither Connolly nor Pierce was unaware that the hours of the post office were numbered. Shortly after Commandant Connolly's dispatch was issued, the leaders ordered members of Common the Man, the women's auxiliary force, to leave the building and make their way to Jervis Street Hospital under white flags. Commandant Pierce has just paid tribute to these women and is saying his goodbyes.
Come on, ladies. Get them behind you. Gotta meet him. Come along, Miss Carney, ladies. We must go now.
I'll do no such thing.
Miss Carney.
Sir, I am General Connolly's secretary and I'm staying here. I'll not put a foot out of this building.
These other ladies.
These other ladies are nurses, General, and they intend to stay.
Miss Carney, I think you really ought to leave. I suppose I can't force you. Commandant Pierce.
Sir, it looks as if you can't hope to hold out here much longer. Did you still think it was worth it?
These men have fought and toiled for 4 days, almost without cease, almost without sleep. No man has complained. No man has asked why. Does that answer you? If they do not win this fight, they will at least have deserved to win it.
And the women who are now leaving, would you say they played an important part in the rising?
I would. They have inspired the volunteers by their courage to resist to the end. And by their own bravery, they have won a sure place in the records of the fight for freedom.
To what extent would you attribute the failure of the rising to Professor McNeil's countermanding order?
The rising has not failed. And Owen McNeil acted as we did in the best interests of Ireland.
And the O'Reilly, what about him? Didn't he support Professor McNeil? And in fact see to it that there was no rising in certain counties?
The O'Reilly was a great man. He was against the rising, but he joined us. For my own part, as to anything I have done, I am not afraid to face the judgment of God or posterity.
At 1 o'clock, an incendiary shell crashed on the roof of the post office. The fire was extinguished by the insurgents under the direct command of Commandant Pierce and the O'Reilly. Other fires started and were put out. But later in the afternoon, an incendiary shell caused flames to spread through the lift shafts and down to the cellars. We now take you over to Captain Purcell, Chief of the Dublin Fire Brigade, for his comments on the fires which are spreading unchecked through Sackville Street.
I've been warned by the military to leave the fires alone. I obeyed them for a time, and then I went to the Tara Street section to Cathedral Place. I think the fires could have been brought under control if we were allowed to do our work. But my men have been warned by the Sinn Féiners to clear off or be shot. Now, I will allow my men to take a certain amount of risk. After all, this is a hazardous occupation. But I will not send them out to be shot at. My God, it's terrible. The whole city is burning, and neither the military nor the rebels will lift a hand to prevent it. I stayed all night in this tower, watching the flames spreading from one building to the next. It's heartbreaking, the waste of it.
This morning, the RIC barracks near Ashbourne, County Meath, came under heavy attack. So far, 3 RIC barracks, Garristown, Swords and Donabate, have been taken by the insurgents. Before returning you to the post office, here is some film taken today in North County Dublin.
This is Ashbourne RIC Barracks, 13 miles north of Dublin. For the past hour, it has been under attack by the 5th Dublin Battalion of Volunteers under Commandant Thomas Ashe and his Chief of Staff, Richard Mulcahy. Twice so far, Commandant Ashe has called upon the police to surrender, but the 12 defenders have chosen to fight on. Perhaps fight is the wrong word. The police have fired no more than a dozen or so rounds during the past hour. The police in the barracks are surrendering. Now, a car of some sort seems to be coming towards us. There's more than one. And from the noise, I should say there are more just beyond the crest of that hill. Almost certainly they are police reinforcements. The volunteers are racing to intercept the cars. Now, if the cars decide to ignore the shooting and make a dash for the barracks, then the insurgents might just as well stop making their retreat as best they can. But no, they're stopping. They're going to make a running fight for it.
Five hours later, the battle was over.
The Battle of Ashbourne is over. Among the RIC, 11 men lie dead. More than 30 are wounded, many of these gravely. Among the dead are County Inspector Gray and District Inspector Smith. 2 commercial travelers who came upon the scene while out motoring were also killed. The volunteer losses are 2 dead and 5 wounded. This has been the insurgents' first outright victory. Perhaps their only military victory of the entire rising. But a victory for all that.
Leave your arms where they are. You're all free to go. But I warn you, however, do not be found up in arms against the Irish Republican Army at any time in the future. That's all.
In other country areas, last Sunday's countermanding order seems to have done its work only too well. Except in a few isolated cases, there has been no rural support for the rising. In County Galway, a body of volunteers under Commandant Liam Mellows occupied the towns of Athenry and Craughwell and cut the railway lines to Limerick and Athlone. But with the approach of heavy military forces, it is believed that the insurgents in this area have now disbanded. In Wexford, a force of 600 volunteers have seized Enniscorthy and Vinegar Hill. So far, however, there has been no heavy fighting. In Cork and Limerick, swift military action forestalled any attempt at a rising. While in Louth, a section of the local volunteers marched on Dundalk, while others made their way south to join the post office garrison in Dublin. But in the post office, however, the plight of the insurgents became more desperate by the minute. As the fire became out of control, the time for evacuating the building loomed nearer. But how were they to escape through the military lines? Now, the military cordon extended from Dublin Castle here, along Dame Street, and down the quays, and across to Amiens Street Station. From behind the GPO here, the Sherwood Foresters were fighting their way eastwards. An 18-pounder gun was in Great Britain Street here, pointing down Coles Lane to prevent the insurgents escaping along Henry Street. Military barricades at the head of Moore Street and Moore Lane were reinforced by mortars and machine guns. Late this afternoon, escape seemed out of the question.
High above our heads, the post office roof is blazing. The firefighters have given up. Further efforts to control the blaze are less than useless. And now the wounded and the remainder of the women, with the exception of Miss Winifred Carney and the 2 nurses, the Misses Greenan and Farrell, are preparing to leave the building. With them is to go Father John Flanagan, who has been acting as chaplain to the garrison since yesterday.
no hindi antaka. Heraiglif machine. Agus Karamila Mahagas. Better make ready. You're to go with this party.
Where to?
Jervis Street Hospital. We've already tunneled from here into the Coliseum Theater. After that, you'll have to make your own way as best you can.
What do you mean you're letting me go?
You're to accompany the wounded and look after them. When and if you get to Jervis Street, you can do as you like.
Well, what about the other prisoners, Lieutenants King and Chalmers?
I've given them my word. They will be released.
The General Connolly ought to go, too. His leg's in a pretty bad way.
What, me? I'm going nowhere. Don't be mad. My leg is grand. Grand.
Look, he really should get some hospital attention. There's a danger of gangrene.
The General is in command. He'll do as he wants. You'd better get moving.
Go on. Thank you.
And good luck. Go, Father.
An hour later, the first step in the plan for the evacuation of the main garrison was put into effect.
Here in Henry Street, just around the corner from the burning post office, a detachment is lined up awaiting orders. It may be they are to lead the retreat, but at the end of every street and laneway leading from here is a machine gun nest.
I'm sorry, but you'll have to make a run for it. You'll find your friends over that way, but get in close to them before you show yourselves. Goodbye, and good luck. Good luck. Good luck. Good luck. Good luck. Good luck. Good luck.
The post office cannot hold out for much longer. The provisional government must establish new headquarters. We have decided to occupy Williams and Wood's premises in Great Britain Street, and from there, we might join up with our men in North County Dublin. You men will advance, seize the building, and open a route for the rest of the garrison to follow.
We will advance in 2 single columns, one at each side of Moore Street. Boys, it will be either a glorious death or a glorious victory. Attention! Left face! At the double! Forward!
cover! Take cover! One. Cover you.
This note is from my fiancée, Miss Grace Gifford. Would you deliver it, please?
Gladly.
And this ring. And excuse me, this bracelet.
I'll see to it.
Thank you.
You know, Manny, you're like a bad penny. There's no getting rid of you.
I wasn't all that far away, only at the Coliseum. They sent word that somebody tripped over your splits.
Are you nearly finished?
Just about.
Good, you better go back then. Good luck.
The O'Reilly should have reached Great Britain Street by now. By the time we get there, he'll be inside Williams and Woods, so we may as well move, huh?
Very well.
All right,
Captain Collins? Yes? Move them in out.
Very well.
Right, men, out! Right. Hold on the double then. On the double, boys. Come on, let's try to get something to the outside.
Move!
Get up! Jump! On! On! On!
Yes, what is it?
Did you say we were to go to Great Britain Street?
Yes.
But the military have been there suggesting, so I've seen them.
Are you sure?
Oh, they're all over the place, sir. I saw them when I was coming from the forecourts. Barricades and...
Somebody stop the O'Reilly. He's taking 30 minutes to Moore Street.
What? I'll go, son. I know the district.
Wait here.
Miss, do you think will we win? I was never in a rebellion before.
Neither was I.